Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and unravel a true chronological medical mystery, the story of how we are finally actually fighting back against progressive lung fibrosis. For decades, a diagnosis of progressive fibrosing lung disease was just one of the most daunting challenges in all of respiratory medicine and rheumatology. But today, we are looking at a landscape that's been fundamentally transformed by clinical trials. We're going to break down the exact data, the trial designs, and the brand new mechanisms that are literally giving patients their breath back. To truly understand this incredible decade of medical innovation, we're going to follow a clear roadmap through the most crucial clinical trial data. We'll start with the lung fibrosis problem, make sense of things using the PICOT framework, look at the first antifibrotic pioneers, and then dive into the nerandomilast breakthrough before wrapping up with the lingering uncertainties and the future of patient care.
So Part 1, the lung fibrosis problem.
We really have to start our investigation with the grim reality that rheumatology patients face. While idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, or IPF, often gets the most attention, a lot of patients with connective tissue diseases like rheumatoid arthritis or scleroderma also develop severe lung complications. And for those who develop progressive fibrosing ILD, this question of irreversible lung function loss has historically meant a rapid decline and tragically high mortality. The stiffening and scarring of the lungs meant that with every passing year, breathing capacity just diminished, and for a long time, doctors simply had no proven therapies to stop it.
That brings us to Part 2, making sense with PICOT.
To decode the massive medical strides made against this disease over the last decade, we need a sort of detective's notebook. Now, what's really interesting here is how the PICOT framework, looking at population, intervention, comparator, outcome, and timing, allows us to directly compare different trials and cut right through the dense medical jargon. It makes sure we are always comparing apples to apples. Let's move to Part 3, the first antifibrotic pioneers. This timeline brilliantly illustrates the incredible race against time over the last 12 years to save patients' lung capacity. Just think about it. 12 years ago, there were no proven therapies. Zero. Then, 10 years ago, the INPULSIS and AMBITION trials changed everything by proving we could slow the disease down. 5 years ago, the IMPACT trial broadens that horizon, and now, in 2025, the FIBRONEER trials are introducing an entirely new weapon to our arsenal.
Using our PICOT lens on these pioneer trials, you can literally see the breath saved per year. In the INPULSIS trials, patients on nintedanib saw their forced vital capacity, their FVC, decline by about 100 to 150 milliliters less per year compared to a placebo. AMBITIONs showed similar success with parfenadone, preserving roughly 150 to 200 milliliters annually. This was a massive shift in the landscape, taking us from having zero options to having highly effective, standard, disease-modifying therapies for IPF.
So the crucial point is that the medical community naturally asked, hey, if this works for idiopathic disease, will it work for other progressive fibrosing diseases? And the IMPACT trial proved we could absolutely extend these life-changing therapies to the rheumatology patients we discussed earlier. Nintedanib preserved about 80 to 100 milliliters of FVC per year in these non-IPF patients, which basically established a brand new standard of care.
Which leads us directly into Part 4, the nerandomilast breakthrough.
But the medical mystery didn't end there. Researchers kept pushing for better solutions, because while the early pioneers were great, they definitely had their limitations, especially when it came to tolerability. Enter the FIBRONEER trials and a brand new drug called nerandomilast. This is a novel preferential PDE4B inhibitor, which means it attacks the fibrosis from a completely different mechanical angle than older drugs like nintedanib. It is the first genuinely new antifibrotic mechanism we've seen in years.
Okay, let's dive into this massive global data set from the 2025 FIBRONEER program. Looking at the population, it was huge, over 2,300 patients across both IPF and non-IPF trials spanning over 40 countries. They tested 2 doses of nerandomilast against a placebo over 52 weeks. But here's the detail that's actually mind-blowing. Roughly 43% of the non-IPF patients were actually already taking nintedanib in the background. The trial was deliberately designed to see if this new drug could provide a benefit on top of existing therapy.
And the efficacy is undeniable. When looking at the absolute change in FVC, both doses significantly preserved lung function over the 52 weeks, saving crucial lung capacity. The 18 mg dose preserved 67 milliliters versus placebo, and the 9 mg dose preserved 81 milliliters. It's super striking that the 9 mg and 18 mg doses essentially matched each other, effectively rivaling the preservation rates of the older pioneer drugs.
Even more astonishing, pooled meta-analysis data shows a relative risk of 0.68 for all-cause mortality compared to placebo. Now, while the trials were primarily designed to look at lung function rather than death rates, a 0.68 relative risk is a highly significant signal hinting at massive survival benefits for patients taking this new medication.
Of course, we have to talk about side effects. Every drug has them. For nerandomilast, the main challenge is gastrointestinal, specifically diarrhea. But this brilliantly illustrates the nuanced victory here. The silver lining is that the discontinuation rates due to these side effects are remarkably lower than what we historically see with nintedanib. Plus, there were no major organ toxicity signals. That means patients who previously had to quit their meds because of stomach issues might finally have a highly effective alternative they can actually tolerate. Moving to Part 5. Benefits and lingering uncertainties.
Despite these incredible numbers, every medical breakthrough brings its own set of new questions, right? We must objectively note that our rigorous data is capped at a 52-week primary endpoint, so we still need long-term data beyond 1 year. Also, because both doses perform so well, the optimal dose for specific subgroups is still a bit unclear. We also need dedicated trials to confirm that amazing mortality signal. Intentional triple combination therapy hasn't been fully tested yet either. And practically speaking, navigating regulatory approvals, costs, and health system access, particularly in places like India, will be a major upcoming hurdle.
And finally, Part 6, Future Care and Practice. So how do we integrate all this trial data into actual patient care right now? This step-by-step algorithm is how rheumatologists will actively translate these global trial results into immediate localized clinical action. Step 1, confirm progression by looking for that persistent FVC decline of greater than 5% over 12 months. Step 2, optimize therapy by starting a standard antifibrotic or adding and switching if the patient is progressing. And Step 3, rigorously monitor lung capacity, oxygen needs, and GI tolerability every 3 to 6 months. We are really looking at a monumental shift in medical philosophy here. We're moving towards a future where stacking these therapies, just like we do for high blood pressure or diabetes, becomes the ultimate standard of care. Moving away from a single antifibrotic approach to a stepwise or intentional combination strategy means we can attack the fibrosis from multiple angles to completely halt the disease in its tracks. As we close this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. We have journeyed from an era of zero options to an era of combination therapies preserving vital lung capacity. But with such powerful new tools in our hands, how quickly can our global research consortia adapt, design new trials, and secure local approvals to save even more lives? The blueprint is there. Now we just have to build the future. Thanks for diving into the data with me today. Keep asking questions and always follow the evidence.